Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town.
I'm kind of working on, just so you know, I'm kind of working on a perfect Saturday right now, Tyler Gould. So some time with you is only going to add to it, but it started with no alarm on a Saturday morning, right? Pretty classic.
Thing, yeah.
Pretty good. And really then some golf.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Abe and I and a friend went out and played. This episode's brought to you by Grape Ranch, formerly known as the Palisadro Golf Course.
I like that course. I played it a few times. It's a fun course, man.
Yeah. So we found ourselves a lot of sevens.
Okay.
A lot of sevens.
I actually sprung from my new golf shoes.
Oh, that's what Abe rocks.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm feeling.
So this is a podcast, so we don't have video component. This is the Air Jordans.
The Air Jordans, man.
Ooh.
I'm kind of excited about those.
Yeah, Abe's all about them.
Yeah, I've been jonesing for them for a while, and I finally decided to pull the trigger. You know what the heck.
Well, hold on. Those look really clean though. So they haven't seen.
No, they haven't even been on the course yet, man. So I'm gonna play next week and break them in.
Okay, so one of the questions that I threw out to you guys today, is so this thing is troubling me, and you know, like I'm never really good at in the moment because I have a thought in the moment and then I immediately kind of fast forward, like, oh shoot, that's going to be. What is that going to look like in 4 or 5 years? So is there anything that you are doing in your life that you never thought you would be doing? Today, guess what I did on the golf course?
What'd you do?
I pulled out my golf ball retriever and walked along the water hazard and pulled balls out.
Get out of here.
What? I'm not that guy.
No, you're not that guy, man. Because I think there's my thought has always been
I'm not that guy.
And you're kind of breaking my thought on this because my thought has always been like, you start out, you enjoy golf, right? And you hit some shots and golf is fun. And as you progress in the game and you're getting older in the game, and this is not you. This is why you've kind of destroying my thought, is that you start to lose a few clubs out of your bag and you start replacing with gadgets and gizmos and then so you can retrieve balls and do all kinds of other stuff, right? Like, you know, I was golfing with someone the other day and they had one of those like wobbly, right, to warm up, you know? Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, man, like, what happens? So
yeah, I became that guy and I probably scored 6 or 7 balls and I was like, you know, and I know what the group behind me is thinking. It was super slow, so I wasn't slowing anything. Yeah. But the group behind me is like, this guy.
Oh yeah, that's my comment all the time. This guy. What's going on over here?
So now I'm in this moment, right? And I'm like, okay, I can't remember how old I am, but I'm in this middle-aged thing, and now I'm like, oh no, what's coming?
Yeah,
what are the things
that wobbly thing? That's coming.
Hey, that kind of looked like a shake weight, dude. We don't do that. But I'm looking at like, oh no, am I going to do Just for Men? Because right now, there's no way I'm doing Just for Men. But in 5 years from now, am I slowly washing away my gray hair?
Look, I don't know.
Because guess what else I'm doing that I never thought I'd eat, that I never thought I'd do?
Yeah.
I'm eating squash.
Squash. Squash or zucchini? Squash?
Both. I'm a combined plate. You know that yellow vegetable that's like, what's that? Is it Halloween season? Is that a gourd? Is that what you put out on the front of your steps, right? No, I'm eating it and I'm loving it.
I'm the same way. I love
squash.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Never thought I'd be there.
That's an interesting question, man. That's a very interesting question. I'd have to really give that some thought.
Well, and it's the annual community yard sale.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I didn't know this because we didn't get the flyer because we don't ever participate. So we're not even worth the flyer anymore. Yeah, they're like, right?
Dude, save a tree. Don't even give something to the freaking Freemans, all right?
The Freemans, the Freemans boycott this every year. Don't send it, right? So I wake up this morning, I go sit out on my Adirondack chair and I'm reading and I'm like, oh, neighbor across the street's having a yard sale. This is great. And then I see a guy and the traffic's pretty hopping, right? I was like, wow, this is quite the yard sale. So I put my book down and I walk barefoot across and I'm kind of checking out their wares in the yard sale. And I see a guy walking down the street holding a bowling ball.
Oh, just purchased or
not from this yard sale, right? Okay. So I see a guy walking around around my neighborhood with a bowling ball, and I'm thinking maybe interesting workout routine, right?
Well, let me ask real quick: did he have it under his arm or with his fingers
under his arm? Under his arm.
Because I was thinking one in each hand with fingers in the holes. That would be a great.
I think you just invented a workout craze that we're going to be seeing everywhere. So I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to read some context clues here. Guy walking around with a bowling ball. Maybe there's something else going on. So sure enough, I go put on some shoes, walk outside. Whole neighborhood's yard selling it. Whole neighborhood, right? And I'm walking around like from one neighborhood. From one house's crap to the next house's crap. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm never going to be a yard sale guy. And then it hit me. Oh no. What if 4 or 5 years from now, I'm like, hey, Tyler, let me show you what I found when Kelly and I went yard selling. Right? Because you think you're not ever going to do these things. And then life slips in there. Pretty soon, I'm going to be driving around in an RV, hauling around my own waste, jumping from KOA campground to KOA campground, talking to you about, oh my goodness, this place had the best hookups, Tyler, ever.
I mean, my commode is clean as a whistle from this. Yeah.
Seriously, this cannot happen. This cannot happen. Props to Josh Anshuris, Beth, right? Last episode, all about the RV park, all about, right?
100%.
All about it. If that's your thing, I'm just sitting here thinking, there's some things in my life that I thought I would never be doing, and I'm doing them, and it's giving me concern for the future.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there are some things you have to like. You've got to set some boundaries on, and you've got to be firm on some of those boundaries. And I think accountability is key, right? Like you got to let Kel know where your boundaries are, so she can squash you when you start to cross those boundaries.
Yeah, when I start eating pizza with a fork, Kelly's got to slap me in the face.
Oh, pizza with a fork. You know me, I'm a fork guy, man. yeah. but I'll say.
Okay, hold on. So on this topic, we've talked about this before, right? Where I dream of being that wing guy.
Yeah.
And not just the wing guy, but not the boneless wing guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we did this survey at work, this strength survey. I don't know if I'm going to endorse it. It's not a sponsor of the program. I don't even know if I'll drop it in the show notes because I'm not very happy with them.
Okay.
All right. So I take this strengths, and I'm on a leadership team at work, and everybody on the leadership team takes it, right?
All right.
And so we come and we basically have a conversation about what it reveals to us.
Yeah.
My number one strength, basically, I'm a boneless wing guy.
And you didn't know it?
No, pretty much. Listen, like instead of bravery, perseverance, grit, my number one strength, spirituality.
That's good.
It's not bad. Number two, forgiveness. Okay. Okay. When does the doormat come out though, right? Number three, love. Right. I could have cool things like
you were hoping like hard ass or what? I mean, like,
bravery.
Yeah.
Right. Courage.
Yeah.
Number four, fairness.
I mean, this is a good list. Like
it's a good list, but like give me a backbone. Right. Number 5, humor. I'll take that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
Number 6, zest.
It's like
7,
the soap. Like the soap. Remember the soap?
Like the soap.
Yeah.
Like the soap. Kindness, love of learning, gratitude, and hope round out my top 10.
That's pretty good.
No, here's the thing. You know where leadership came up?
Where?
Number 23.
So are you still on the council? Did they let you stay on the leadership committee? They're like, look, this is a...
I think I just showed myself the door, right?
Hey,
I'm going to go back in there and retake it so I can get some different results, because this is terrible.
That's a good list. Hey, look, I got to tell you, going back to the idea of boundaries, I was on the phone with my kids last week. On Monday, Quinn gets to call home, as does Grace, right, on their preparation day. And so he's calling in from Brazil, and Quinn's on the phone, and Abby and Sydney and Gwen and Ricky and I. And I don't know how it comes up, but Quinn says, Mom, Dad, I really have to thank you, because there were, you wouldn't let me when I was a kid, even though I really wanted to, you wouldn't let me wear basketball shorts to school every single day.
That's a thing. That's a thing.
So we said, we were like, no, it's not happening. Now he's like 20 something, right? And he's like, thank you for forcing me to have some level of different style. And Sydney jumps in, and she was like, talking about whatever, the things that it was sort of, now it becomes a session of what Mom and Dad wouldn't let them do, And so I told her, I said, listen, I do recall a moment in time where you asked to have a roller backpack, and I said no. I saved you from that curse, right? So I like I said, there's some boundaries.
If Abe could find some Heelys right now, he'd be all about it.
Oh, let me tell you, I spent a weekend, last weekend I think it was, at a youth conference with kids from 16 to 18 years old, high school kids, and I saw wheelies all over the place, man. Coming back, man.
Yeah, they are.
Some of these things never die.
Oh yeah, Abe's got I think he's got a Buzz Lightyear backpack, and he's all about Paw Patrol.
But you see what happens is, this is sort of like the kids that all wear the Bass Pro Shop hats, right? None of these kids
He's got one of those.
Yeah, none of these kids are going to Bass Pro Shop. I mean, some of them are, but the high percentage are not. And I can tell you by pretty accurately that the large percentage of those in San Diego that wear them have never been to a Bass Pro Shop. All right. So
hold on.
Yeah.
I got to show you something.
Okay. But as you get older, I think that there becomes this desire to be ironic in all that you do, right? So there's the irony of the Bass Pro Shop hat. There's the irony of the Paw Patrol and the Buzz Lightyear. Like it's meant to be ironic, and that's where they're coming from. So I get it. I support that.
I got some swag coming your way. You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready. I love it, man.
From a skateboarding perspective, right? Somebody hooks me up at work with a sticker that says podcasting is not a crime.
Yes.
Boom.
I love it.
You got one coming.
Oh man, I'm excited about that. I'm gonna sneak, as a kid, I always wanted to sneak up behind a police car and put the skateboarding is not a crime sticker on their car.
Yeah, that would be kind of in the triple dog dare.
Yeah. But I paid my fair share of fines for skateboarding. So,
hey, thinking about growing up, just really quick on a serious note, we ask our guests all the time, is there anybody you want to honor in this space right now? I just want to throw out a huge honor. Red Bluff High School lost an amazing teacher. This last week, Betsy Palubeski passed away. She had been battling with health issues for probably the last 2 decades. And she's one of those, right? She's one of those amazing teachers that shapes the school culture. And I think even on her favorite color was orange. And on Friday, the school came out in orange in honor and respect to her. And her husband, Joe, is an amazing guy, truly living. Joe and Betsy lived right next door to the school and just lived rich lives. And Betsy Palubeski will be missed. So I want to honor Betsy Palubeski on my podcast. So
that's awesome, man. I mean, a sad loss for the community of Red Bluff, but what an honor, right, to have someone like that in a community that
we've all got them, right?
Yeah,
we've all got them. It takes a village, and every once in a while, there's somebody that comes around that has an impact on.
Well, and I think that we don't do a good enough job of just looking at the day-to-day people that are heroes, in the communities, right? And that doesn't mean, obviously we have great people that do great things like firefighters and police officers and teachers and these other, but man, there's a lot of people that do a lot of good for a lot of that is never talked about
and don't even want them talked about.
Don't even want to talk about it.
Right?
I mean, we've had guests here that we've talked to prior to convincing them to come on the show with us that really have struggled with the idea of coming on and talking about anything that they're doing.
I got the guy I went golfing with today. No names. We won't mention the name, but I've been pressuring him to come on this show with all I got.
Yeah.
And he has Heisman straight arm. Right.
Yeah.
Like I get it.
That,
I get
man.
it.
I respect that. Absolutely. So
are we ready to get some Brian Grow up in here?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's admit this guy, huh?
Kick the door.
Episode 99, Tyler Gould. Episode 99.
I sort of feel like we're preparing for like Y2K or something. Like the world's going to shut down at 100. Like, I'm going to be under my desk on the day that we record that one, and just hoping that the lights stay on, that the computer, the ones and the zeros don't cycle to the wrong section. And
well,
hey,
hey, Brian Grow, welcome back to the richest man in town. How are you, brother?
I am doing great today. Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk again.
We're excited to have you, man.
46.
46? Was it 46 or 47? I thought I was telling my wife, I was like, I think this is 52 weeks since the last time I was on.
That's crazy.
It is.
Was it 46 or 47? Because I may have been off by one.
You were episode 46. No effort is wasted.
Absolutely.
I know this because, Brian, I did some yard work today and you were in my ears. I went back and listened to episode 46. And I owe you a couple of nickels because there are some things that I walked away from our time together, and I use those in my day-to-day, right? That idea of you were the one that shared with me the idea of holding them both.
Holding on to both things at once, yeah.
Right? Where sometimes we have these things that are kind of causing contradictions and collisions in our head, and we're like, I got to let one of these things go. It's like, no, I can kind of hold on to both of them. So
I think that's the human experience is just the paradox of living our lives. And you guys sent me a couple things that, things that we have to hold on at the same time before our talk today. So I think that is the human experience, is conflict, is just having conflicting ideas, conflicting things happening in our lives and moving forward through it.
Yeah. Well, hey, so since you were on, you actually had an opportunity. You were part of our pizza party where our little tour stop, right?
Yeah.
Dude, this is like, it's like the garage where Apple started. That's what it felt like. The few, the proud. This is going to grow into something.
Yeah. It was fun to be able to meet you in person. And it's funny because I was telling Mike, I'm like, it's, most of the people there I've hadn't met in person, but I felt like I knew you guys like I've known you for years, so it was,
isn't it so interesting how quickly that happens?
Yeah, it was very cool, so a ton of fun, man.
True to form, Brian, you've been hanging out in the waiting room, and I've been venting a few things, right? I've been concerned. I'm sharing some concerns with my friend Tyler. It's kind of like some free therapy.
Just with bad advice. That's how it works.
I'm convinced we're all our own therapists. So just you talking it to really anybody is going to make you start to hear things that you're like,
getting it out in the open, right?
Yeah, I think so. So I think that's what therapists really think. They're just like, this person is healing themselves, and I'm just kind of here.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a really good leader one time who his answer to me when I had a question, I would say, hey, what do I do about this thing? And he would always go, well, what do you think you should do about that thing? And then I would say, well, I don't know, like maybe this. And he's like, you should give that a try and see how that works out. Right. Yeah. And it was great. So, force you to swim a little bit. So I love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. One of the questions that I was venting to Tyler about was this idea of, Brian, do you find yourself doing things in your life now that you would have never thought you'd be doing? Like today, I was playing golf with Abe, and I found myself pulling out the ball retriever in my bag and walking along the water hazard, pulling
He's that guy. Come on.
someone else's baggage out of the water hazards with all their bad juju and taking the ball and putting it right in my bag.
Yes.
And it's like, what just happened? Now I'm going to start going to flea marts.
That's
man.
Yeah.
I'll hit a ball in
That's
the
beautiful.
bushes, and the people I'm golfing with, they'll see it and they go, "You want to get that?" I'm like, "No,
Nope.
no, that's got some bad energy on it. I don't want any part of that, man."
Yeah,
No, that's
I'm scooping it
beautiful.
up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm eating squash and zucchini.
Oh,
I'm with you on that, though.
dude, I'm with you. We're doing a thing where we're trying to, instead of, a lot of the times when you're preparing a meal, you think of the meat and what's going to surround it. And we've kind of tried to focus like what vegetable are we going to feature, and
I like that.
Like, yeah, just kind of a little mental switch. And so I'm with you. We're trying to do a little bit more some cleaner eating, some vegetarian meals, trying to get the veggies in there.
I love that. That's very cool, man.
Yeah.
Did you ever see yourself having conversations where the vegetable might be the spotlight on the plate?
No. Yeah. It's really funny that I've thought about this a lot, and sometimes I'll go back and read an old journal or, something that I've written deep in the Google Drive somewhere. I'll go back and read it and be like, man, the 21-year-old version of myself would look at the 33-year-old version of myself and go, what are you doing, dude? Like, there's some things that, you think you have a handle on, especially mentally, that take some practice to implement physically into your actions, into your day-to-day life. And so you think, I'm going to do this, that, X, Y, Z. And then you start getting into those areas of life and you go, oh, well, XYZ is harder to apply than I thought.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I got to tell you, like, I never thought I'd be drinking almond milk, dude. Like, really? And then I also never thought that I'd be in bed before 10 o'clock. I do that sometimes too. That's a crazy thing.
We're still not there yet because with young kids, that time is sacred. Like, that time to just decompress from
100%, man. Absolutely.
We're contributing to the tiredness, so maybe we should take that lesson away from this conversation that we need to get to bed before
yeah time. Well, but the thing of it is, like, there comes a time when you like, when our kids were young, you put them to bed and that is your time, right? Like, you do. It's like party, whether it's just sitting on the couch and not talking and just watching TV or eating ice cream or whatever it is, right? Like, that's your time. Now it's like my kids are all older, so they're all up like way later than I want to be, especially
than you could possibly be.
Yeah, and especially when I work, right? So I'm just like, all right, so this is your time now. You own my house, so my only space is my bedroom, right? That's it, and this room right here, I guess. Yeah. So.
Well, hey, a year ago, Brian, I had just dropped off my daughter at the airport, right? So she's been in Pennsylvania for a year, and I actually had some fun with her, and we were doing some voice memos back and forth, and I asked her the question, what is something that you know now that you didn't know a year ago? And so I thought, you know what, let's have some fun with Brian Grow and throw this out there. So it's 2022. We talked to you on March 22nd, 2021. Over the span of that year, Brian, are there things that you know now that maybe you didn't know a year ago?
Oh, tons, known and unknown. There's things that I think I know, and I'm just not conscious of it yet. But a couple of things that I am conscious of, one practical thing, I've gotten big into gardening, and to kind of go along with the fruit or the vegetable kind of thing, eating more veggies and things like that. I'm like, you know what? Why don't we just regrow this stuff? And I'm getting to composting now. I've learned a ton about that. I've got some cold composting going. I've got some hot composting going. And I'll tell you, like, there's nothing like the decompression that comes as you come home for the day and you just start watering the plants that you're growing. And you just have like those like 5 minutes to just get the hose out, start watering the plants, just look at how they're doing.
So you're talking like raised beds, the whole bed.
Yeah. I have a raised bed, and filled it with a bunch of stumps or wood and things like that we had. put some compost on top of that, and then put some, and a lot of the stuff that we're growing right now, I didn't plant any of it. It's just coming from all the compost stuff that we put in. So we put pumpkins in, we put potatoes in, all that kind of stuff. And all that stuff is starting to sprout. And we haven't planted anything yet, and it's already coming up. So
that's cool. Very
it's
cool.
It's a fun experience to kind of see just how that whole process works, and learning about making your soil rich and what you can do when you have different problems popping up with plants and crops and things like that. And so it's been a lot of YouTube videos. I found a couple of channels that I'm just crazy about. I watch.
What did we ever do with before YouTube, right? I mean, come on.
I don't know. Like, as a homeowner, like
I'm fixing appliances. I'm like,
cars, all that stuff. Yeah. Oh my goodness. YouTube is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
But one of the other things that I've learned maybe over the past couple of years, with just how the world has been, and is just living my life and not living a life that others are expecting from me. Kind of knowing myself, having a self-awareness, knowing where to get good information, where to find things that are true and right. And then not letting others' expectations dictate how I live my life. They don't have to live my life. Nobody else has to live my life. I have to live my life. And for good or bad, the things that I do contribute a lot to that. So I feel like in the last year, a lot of things have really kind of pointed me to that specifically.
You know what's interesting? I kind of feel like I was reading that question, and I honestly had the thought that there's a lot of things that I thought I knew that I don't know, and as I had that thought, the next thought that came to my mind is that idea is sort of exciting to me, because it sort of forces me to dig deeper into some things that I thought I knew, and to re-examine some things, and to seek out some new information, right? And this idea of learning and just seeking is super exciting to me. So I think as I've sort of let go of some things that I thought I knew, and allowed myself to become the novice or the learner in those things again, has unlocked some new perspectives for me. So,
well, you've seen that graph though. You've seen that graph where it's like, I can't remember how they're labeled, but it's like how much you actually know about something, and your confidence in knowing it. And low levels of knowledge give us really high confidence. We can start spouting off this and that, and all these talking points that we hear other people talking about, that we think, oh yeah, this makes me know something. Then we start actually looking into them, and that graph goes down, and we realize, oh my gosh, there's so much I don't know about this, or so much I misunderstand, so many perspectives that I just haven't gained because I haven't taken the time to learn from this.
Yeah.
And then you slowly start to creep back up. Once you gain that knowledge, you gain that confidence back. And so it's really interesting to me that, we have the highest levels of confidence in our knowledge when we don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Or when we become an expert in it. But
right
after we start learning is when we just tank and we go, I know nothing.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that what has really kind of helped me embrace that perspective is the conversations that we have here. Because we talk, all of us have different experiences. We have we've all experienced some of even the same things that are similar things. We experience them differently. And that's really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. So for that, I'm super grateful, right? Because you can have these conversations, and we had Mike's brother on last week, and man, he opened my eyes to some stuff. I'm like, gosh, Mike, you said you're not a garage sale guy. Like, after talking to your brother, I'm like, I'm a garage sale guy. I want to get rid of everything I have and just drive, man.
No spoilers. I haven't listened to that episode yet. So
but no, it's right. It's right in line with what you're talking about as far as living your own life and not living someone else's life.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, pretty soon you get into this place where it's like, what are my priorities?
But you get into, and again, I don't want to ruin this for you, Brian, but I'm going to hint at a couple things here, right? Because he does talk, your brother talked about the security of his job and sort of the life that they had established. and then making wholesale changes to that, and the freedom and sort of where that's put them, and the different perspective that gave them. And I do believe that on some level, maybe it's not, with our jobs or, everybody's a little bit different, but I think there has to be some resets every once in a while where we're willing to kind of hit the button and say, let's just kind of erase that tape and start over again and see where we're at, because it's easy to fall into habits and think we're creating patterns, but these patterns become comfort zones that we start building up these walls, and we go, well, I'm on this path and I'm not going to venture off of it now because this is what's worked for me. And maybe there's there is some wisdom in this, because I learned this from your brother, knocking those walls down and kind of meandering a little bit and saying, okay, what am I learning, and what can I see, and what have I not been looking at that could enlighten me.
And see, that's kind of what I dig about the Richest Men in Town podcast project, right? The thinking is that, can we week by week have these little disruptions?
Yeah.
Can we have these little conversations, or maybe we have an opportunity to listen to somebody who's got an interesting take on things, and that can shift us and wake us up a little bit out of our ruts. Yeah. So Brian Grow, you sounded like a genius in episode 46 for me personally, because you were talking about the danger of automating everything in life, and in particular aspects of our faith, right? And in automation, yes, Heavenly Father wants us to connect with him through regular prayer. He doesn't want routine, same conversation every day, right? So like, how can we, get in the habit of connecting with God through prayer and meditation without the vain repetition of automating the message every day, right? And so I think that there's the art of living this life, and I think that that's the challenge, and that's what we get to explore every week. So,
well, and I think it's one of those things we have to hold both things, because we have that automation that is part of our lives. It's always going to be part of our lives. But if we don't take the time to examine what the software is doing in our lives, if we never have the opportunity to evaluate, to have the annual survey of those automations that we've put into our lives, then we're gonna eventually, those things are gonna break down or become outdated. I loved a quote that I heard. I think this is from James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. He said, we'll rise to our goals, but we'll fall to the level of our, I think he says systems.
Right.
Is it systems or habits? Yeah. I can't remember what he said there, but if we're not reevaluating those systems that we have in our lives, those automations that we've put in, they can go haywire.
Yeah. And I think that, using the word patterns or habits, those are good things. Right. They're good things. But I think, to your point, Brian, to be able to evaluate those and say, okay, is this right? It's the free throw shooter that's at 90%, making 90% of his free throws, but never looks at how can I adjust this a little bit more so I'm 95% or 98%, right? I think that we have to be able to look at that and say, hey, we're doing good, but could we be better? Could we adjust? Can we make some adjustments that? And I think for me, these kind of conversations is what helps me kind of self-evaluate,
Can I go off on a tangent on the free throw thing really quick?
Yeah, please.
Because I heard a podcast years ago. It was Malcolm Gladwell on revisionist history. And he talked about a whole episode. He talked about Wilt Chamberlain and free throws.
I've listened to this episode.
This episode, right? Yeah. So I think that point was Wilt Chamberlain, to just recap briefly, he had a shooting coach that was teaching him to shoot the free throws underhand.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to do it because people would make fun of him. He'd get mocked and things like that. And so I think to your point, like when we make those tweaks, sometimes the tweaks that we make are due to outside influences. Yeah. We make tweaks in our lives because of the expectations of others, or the belief systems of others, or the mocking of others, when it isn't beneficial to us. If he had just ignored it and continued on, he could have even been an even greater scorer than he already was.
Yeah, because
prolific.
If I remember right, Brian, he shot for a season underhand and had one of the highest ratings, right? The free throw percentage.
Best of his career.
Yeah, and then he felt like people were looking at him sideways because he wasn't doing it how he should, and he switched and never achieved that same level again.
And then Rick Barry, I think he interviewed Rick Barry on
it,
and Rick Barry shot that way his whole career.
Absolutely, and he holds the record for free throw percentage. So
there we go.
Love it, man.
What was the kid's name in Hoosiers that shot it underhand?
Oh,
remember that kid?
Ollie.
Oh, there we go.
Yep. Ollie, man. But he also dribbled it off the side of his foot. He almost lost the whole thing, man. Ollie, come on, bro.
Come on. Get it together.
Get it together, man.
So I was thinking about you too. I was reading this book, Gretchen Rubin, Happiness Project. And I just wanted, because you've got those kids, right? You got those small kids, and this concept of fog happiness.
Yeah.
Right. Let me just read this to you, and I'm dying to know your thoughts on it as a dad, right? And so it is with raising children. At any one time, the negative of raising kids may swamp the positive. And I might wish that I were doing something else. Nevertheless, the experience of having children gives me tremendous fog happiness. It surrounds me. I see it everywhere, despite the fact that when I zoom in on any particular moment, it can be hard to identify. Right? It's like the idea of like all of this family and the ups and the downs and from 30,000 foot, I feel this happiness around me, even though when I'm in it right now, it may not look happy, right? Where are you at now? Where are you at now as a dad? It's a year down the road. Talk to me a little bit about where you're coming from with you and your wife and in the parenting adventures.
Well, as evidenced by our conversation earlier about our decompressed sacred time at the end of the night, I feel that completely, that, each day is a new day and there's new struggles. And now your struggles aren't just what's happening in my life or my wife's life, but, we have a lot of inputs coming into our home, a lot of inputs now from school. Our daughter's in school, and, she's struggling with certain things about that. And so when she comes in and it's been a bad day, and if we've all if there's a couple of us that are having a bad day, that's those stressors just start to shoot up. And then the boys are doing their own thing. And, we had a couple weekends ago where all of us were sick and all of us were down and out, and you just go into survival mode. And that's what we did. That's what we had to do. There was nothing that we could do other than just say, okay, you go sleep as much as you can right now, Becky. I'll be with the kids right now. We'll just put on some Cocoa Melon. We'll put on some Bluey. We'll put on some, XYZ all day long. And we're just gonna get through it. We're just going to get through it. It reminds me of when I first started learning to swim with my face in the water. It's so weird and awkward, and you're trying to time it right to bring your face out and get that breath. And sometimes you don't do it quite right and you inhale some water. I feel like fatherhood has really kind of been a similar experience. There are times where I react, and it definitely did not go the way I wanted. And a child is now upset with me. And so I have that conversation with my wife right before we came. I was talking to her about something with our daughter, and I said, how do I give her not criticism, but coaching, give her advice without her feeling like she's in trouble or she's doing something wrong. We can go off on this tangent a little bit later, but she and I started a podcast as well, and we've been.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. But we were recording one today, and I was giving her some coaching in the middle of it, and all of a sudden she just shuts down. And kind of for the rest of the episode, it was really hard to kind of like get things out of her and things like that. So, talking with my wife afterwards, those conversations that we have are so vital, because it gives me that self-awareness. What am I not seeing in this? And she's reminding me that she's a 7-year-old, and she's reminding me that, as a kid, she doesn't have the self-awareness to be able to parse between something that I'm trying to lift her up with and when she gets in trouble. Those things are still new and fresh to her, and she's growing in that. So she's out of her comfort zone right now, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But so am I, and we're growing, and we're moving forward together with it. So long-winded answer for that, but I feel
I think that at any point, right? At any point, even right now, like when I think of being a father right now, just where my kids are at, there's some anxiety that comes with that. I don't know if necessarily happiness is the very first feeling to come out of my mouth, right? It was like, hey, what's it like being a dad right now, right? And it's like, well, I got somebody over there in Philadelphia, and they're rivaling Chicago as the deadliest city in the world right now, or in the United States right now, with gun violence, and I've got a kid who's getting ready to go off to college, and I think the girl to guy ratio in BYU this fall is going to be 3-1. And I'm like, that freaks me out a little bit, right? Like, how's Abe going to handle that? And all that comes at him with that. And so you start spinning a little bit, and it's like, well, right now, would you call this happiness? And I'm like,
You know what?
Yeah, it's a little foggy. It's a little foggy.
It's interesting though. I was in the car today driving back from a soccer tournament with my daughter, who's a senior in high school, and she is getting ready to go to school as well. And she was expressing some of the nerves that she's feeling, right? She's like, I've been so excited about moving out and kind of starting this adventure. And she's like, now it's like almost here. And I'm like, I'm nervous, and I'm apprehensive. And I was telling her, I said, if there's anybody that's prepared, you're prepared, right? You're prepared for this. And she's like, I don't know. And I said, let's talk about some of the things that your mom and I talked to you about when you were little. And we kind of went through these things like, hey, we had you do this. We asked you to do this. We expected this of you. We wanted you to perform this way. And I said, those things are intentional, right? You were 6, 7, 8, 10, 14, 15, right? But now all those things have hopefully created a foundation. So I said, so when you're out there on your own and you've got to do these things that you're nervous about, I want you to think about all the things that we've asked you to do at this point that have created a level of independence, right? And as we're having that conversation, she's sort of recognizing some of those things. Like, honestly, the thought that I had was happiness. Like, that was the thought that I had, because I'm like, you work so hard, Brian, when your kids are your age, right? It's like, it's so much energy because they demand so much, and you want to give them every ounce of what you have. But when they get to that point where they're in Philadelphia, right, where it's a scary place, or they're going to college with a bunch of good-looking ladies next to your good-looking son, right? Those things can cause some apprehension, but at the same time, like, as I'm talking to Abby, I'm like, man, we've spent 17 years like creating systems for you to be able to operate and recognize the right things to do. And like, honestly, I just felt happiness. Like, I felt 2 words: happiness and confidence. Nice. in my child, right? Confidence. Like, you're going to go out and it's just going to happen and it's going to be great. And that's, to me, that's the payoff, because being back in your shoes, Brian, right, where you've got the little ones, and I remember going to bed at night after we've put our kids to bed, and Ricky and I breaking down the day like, okay, this kid, they're not going to make it, right? This one, that's going to be a problem, and you're kind of going through that idea of like, man, this is going to be tough, but here they are. And
can I just highlight something that you said there, Tyler, just the conversations that you're having with the kids. And Brian, I think this definitely applies to you and your interactions with your younger kids. Peggy O'Mara says the way we talk to children becomes their inner voice.
I like that.
Think about that, right?
Makes me think I need some of my conversations.
But I mean, you said happiness and confidence, and in my mind, I'm thinking wilderness, right? Think about those scriptures. Think about those scriptures where in the wilderness, amazing things happen, right? And it's like, as long as that inner voice is is one of confidence, is one of faith, right? Is one of hope. And like, you got this, you can do these things, to rely on the systems, rely on those things that you've had your whole life.
Yeah.
And you got this, right? That becomes that inner voice. And I dig that idea.
And the cool thing too is like, I was telling her this too. I'm like, and the reality is, right, you're going out into the world with a safety net, to be honest. Like I think about myself as a kid.
Oh, best safety net ever.
Right. I'm leaving the house at 18, 19. Like, honestly, I felt like I was jumping out of a plane without a parachute. Like, here we go, buddy. Like, whew. And, if this works out, that they're doing their thing, no one's going to scoop you up. But I love the fact that, I've built a life with people like you guys in it that's helped me to be able to teach my kids these things and then say, hey, and there's a safety net, right? Like, you don't have to walk out there and feel like this is the end. If I don't succeed tomorrow, then it's all over. No, we're good, So
yeah, a couple of things that I want to flip the script on, Mike, when you're talking about the anxieties that come with those kids and them being out there, how easy is it to flip that switch and to think about all the letters that Grace is writing home to you and all the amazing things that the growth that you're seeing, and looking at Abe and seeing him in his senior year, having the time of his life before he moves off to college, those connections, those conversations you get to have before that happens, and how quickly that anxiety is replaced by happiness, and how much more powerful that feels when we're able to do that. And that a lot of that comes from our inner voice. So the voice that we are using with our children becomes their inner voice. But think about the voice that you had at that time in your life, and the voice that you're using. Yeah. And so much of the time, that's what we have to kind of untangle in that web, 100%. Is to go back and look at, where did we come from?
Yeah.
Because, I've heard some things, even on a cellular level, the stressors and anxieties of our parents and our grandparents are passed down. They did a study with mice that they would let them smell a specific scent, and then something bad would happen right afterwards. And they showed that the generations following the mice that had those things happen still had the aversion to that smell, even though they never had the negative thing happen to them.
You know what, Brian? That's an amazing thing, and because as you're saying this, like, I'm just thinking about, right, my experiences, and as an adult, I feel stress that my parents felt, even though I do not have those same stressors in my life. It's almost like this fear in the back of my head, like, well, I could experience that, and I don't want to, right? Even though I'm trying to build something where that doesn't exist in my life, right? So yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, I just think that's a fascinating way to kind of look back and have a new perspective, because so much of this last year I've been trying to do that and trying to just kind of discover myself. I feel like there have been times through the pandemic and through the political climate of our country, and even just me personally with things that are happening in my life that have caused me to sometimes look in the mirror and go, do I recognize like this person? Do I know who I am? Do I know, like, even down to, do I know what I like? Do I even enjoy the same things that I used to? And I think having that opportunity to try to suss through those things and to pull them apart and to investigate them and to really kind of put some work into that only helps us know and understand. And then we are able to change the environment around us when we have that understanding and knowledge, and not let it dictate so much of what we do and what we are.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm curious though, like, so from where you stand now in your life, like that process. I mean, for me, right, I look at it because I'm with you 100%. Like I love this idea of like introspection, where I'm just kind of taking inventory, saying, now that's got to go, or this needs to stay and expand somehow, right? I need to expand on this thing. But for me, sometimes I'm in the middle of that process, or I'm assessing certain things, and I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have started this earlier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this process should have started when I was 25, man, not when I was 35 or 40 or whatever it was, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That whole adage. Yeah.
Well, I think I shared with you guys in the text exchange leading up to this episode was straight out of Preach My Gospel, and it's Christ-like attributes. You might have recognized it, but it's the process for how to acquire some of these attributes, right? To do that assessment of almost like that, what lack I yet? General conference is coming up, and it's a powerful opportunity for us to bring in, like, these are things that I would really love to learn more about, right? And when you talk to your missionary, they do this, right? Like Grace will be like, I've really been studying the allegory of the olive tree in Jacob 5. And I've really been trying to drill down on what does strong roots look like, right?
Yeah.
And just spending time. And it's like, yeah, I remember when I used to study the scriptures like that, you know? Like
times and seasons, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, but I mean, I think, Tyler, you've even applied some of this personal study into not chronologically maybe reading a book of scripture, but like getting into particular topics, right? 100%. And I think that this idea of looking at the attributes of Christ being the perfect example and saying, okay, can I look and say, man, I'm really struggling with patience, right?
Absolutely.
I'm really struggling with virtue. And then going through this process, right? Identifying the attribute you wish to develop, write a definition in your journal, right? Like, what does it look like? Maybe some people in your life that model that. And then recording questions to answers as you're studying, questions that come to your mind. Keep a record maybe of scriptures that you're coming across that help you with that. Record feelings and impressions, set goals, make plans to apply the attribute. Watch out for this, right? You go into it and it's like, okay, Heavenly Father, you know I'm working on patience. Help me apply this to my life. Get ready, right? Get ready. Or virtue, or whatever it is that attribute is. And then you pray for help. And then you evaluate your progress, maybe even using some accountability. Like I dig the idea of like, that is work we should have been doing 20 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's work now, right?
I've shared this with definitely with you, Mike. But I was in a fireside a few years ago when I was a bishop years ago, right? And we were talking about patriarchal blessings, and the patriarch was talking about it, and he said, someone asked about some of the things that are in these blessings, and he said, it's incumbent on you seeking those things. And like, that is in my head all the time now. Like, I am like constantly asking myself, like, what am I seeking right now? Like, and I think I sent you guys that quote. It's actually Jordan Peterson, and he says, what you aim at determines what you see, and I just, that's in my head all the time. So I love that idea of study. Like, that's how I study now, is just like topically, like, where do I want to be? What's going to get me there? And then what do I have to seek after those things, right? I can find the roadmap, and now what do I have to be seeking after to get myself where I want to be?
But I think that the seek is twofold. The seek is in the study,
100%.
And then the seek is in the application.
Absolutely. You build the roadmap in the study, and then you travel that you're on the trail in the application, right? And I think that's the beauty of it. So
not only is that an amazingly powerful way to study, but I think it makes it so much easier to get up and be like excited for that. To be not feel like, okay, I'm getting up, I'm gonna read Alma 4 today, and
right.
No knock on Alma 4.
no knock at all.
There's some nuggets there, man. There's some nuggets.
I think too often we go, okay, I got to check the box. I gotta get down and the kind of the divergent thinking. I got to read through the Book of Mormon. And too often we don't just say, okay, I'm going to set out on a journey this morning. I'm going to start. I'm looking at patience. Maybe I'll start in the topical guide. Maybe I have this scripture that came to mind. I start there. This footnote, what does this really mean? And I follow this footnote and it goes somewhere else. And all of a sudden we're in a completely different area, a different space, a different way of thinking that really gives us a new perspective on something that we thought we knew. Because I think that's the lessons that I really struggle with in church are when the person comes and says, okay, we're going to have a talk about the word of wisdom. What does the word of wisdom mean? And we have the same canned lesson.
Yeah.
And no new question, no new experience, nothing that's kind of been digested, or how does this apply? How did these things that weren't in, that are in our lives now, does a smartphone have to do with the word of wisdom at all? Is there any wisdom that comes from these things in our lives? And so I love that kind of thinking where we just start at a point and everything that.
But I think it also,
thinking.
I think it also makes us blessings to those around us, right? It's so much easier to have a conversation about how you're striving to be more patient in your life than what you read in Alma 4 this morning.
But you know what? I've got a couple things going on, right? Because someone asked me this question the other day. What does your personal study look like? I'm like, it looks like a verse and wherever that thing takes me, right? That's what it looks like. It's like if I in the footnotes and I could end up in Genesis and I started in First Nephi. I don't know, right? It's just wherever it takes me to learn what I feel like I need to learn. But at the same time, I've got a couple different people that I'm reading with different things. And so the cool thing is I'm studying through their eyes, right? So that's been really cool too. So, I had someone the other day text me, what should I be reading? I said, well, what's going on in life? Hey, how about you read Alma 32 and I'll read Alma 32 and let's get back together and break that down together. I'd love to hear what your take is because I know what my take is and it's not right. It's not 100% right. I know some things, but I want to break that stuff down. So again, I think going back to that idea of having conversations and not being so linear in what and how we look at what a study or not even just study, just what progression looks like. We talked about this before, deleting the dates or the check boxes that are attached to these things, right? I went on a mission at 19. I came home and met my wife at 22. We got married at 23. We had kids at 25. No, it doesn't have to be, right? Let's just come and be, let's be committed to the process of becoming our best selves and let the good things enter our lives and we'll take advantage of them as they're there. Right.
So we have this tradition when when missionaries leave our area, we have them. We've got a family quad of scriptures, and we ask them for their farewell message. Right, their farewell message when they come into our ward. They sit down on our couch. We ask them, what's the verse on your plaque at home, right? And just to see that kind of that growth. And what I love is when somebody's going out. And they share this application of the scripture, right? So like I'm looking at, we just had a guy, Ether 3. I'm just going to read it for you. We just had a guy go home. So he left he's leaving our ward, and I think he's leaving tomorrow, Monday. Yeah. So he came and sat on our couch, and I said, all right, man, what's your farewell message? And he shared Ether 3:5. Behold, and this is Brother Jared, right? Brother Jared, touch these stones, right? We're in darkness. We need light. But I love the message. Verse 5, behold, O Lord, thou canst do this. We know that thou art able to show forth great power, which looks small unto the understanding of men. So he shares that, and he's like, I share that because a while back, my mission president calls me into the office and tells me I need to learn Punjabi. I'm called to serve in English, and he needs me battlefield commission to learn Punjabi. He gives me a blessing with the gift of tongues and says, here's a bunch of Punjabi church materials. Go learn Punjabi. And he's now in a place where that was impossible, right? But now he's in a place where he knows Punjabi, and he can point to that verse as, I know God did this for me, right? I know that he needed it, and I know that he did. And so when we think about seeking, like that is so powerful, and such a powerful example that I can look at and I can apply and say, you know what can he do for me?
Well, yeah.
What are some things that I need to do?
That whole section. I mean, honestly, that's like I love that whole lesson. Like, figure it out, and then come to me.
Figure it out.
Come to me and tell me what you figured out. Mm-hmm. You know, hey,
I'll make it work.
I got rocks, right? Yeah. If you touch them, this might work. I mean, honestly, like, that's such a cool thing. It's like such a humble, stripped away, like you know, I've sat here and I've thought this whole thing through, and what I've come up with is a rock, and you touch it, and we're good. And you know what I mean? Like, I just love that idea.
And I know that you can do it.
Yeah, and you figure that out, and you come to me, and we'll make it happen.
It goes back to your leader's question. Like, yeah, what do you think? What would you do?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely right.
It's the invitation to use your agency, to become an agent and not to be acted upon by the circumstance surrounding you. We know those things can affect us, but when we use our agency and we use it over and over and over again, and when we use it in counsel with our Heavenly Father, I love counsel with counsel with him. Like, it's a conversation. It's a back and forth. It's a, you know, I felt like this is what I should do, and it did not go so well. And then we get nudged in a different direction, and then we go, oh, that's the way it's supposed to look. That's how it's supposed to move forward. I love it.
Okay, can I share that on that note, Brian? Can I share this from Elder Hales? Elder Hales, my personal experience is that answers to our prayers often come slowly over an extended period of time as we act upon the feelings of our hearts. Confirmation grows within us, and we know that we're on the right course, right? Over time, in a process, and it's a nudge here. I'm in this verse, and it's like, oh, and then it got me thinking about this, and it's got me thinking about that, and he's just kind of nudging us along versus light bulb on. Every answer to every question you've ever had is given to you. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, and I've been having this conversation a lot lately about Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, right? Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and right?
In all thy ways, right? In all thy ways.
That is a process. And that's the thing. Like, you know, the conversations I've been having with people is we don't, you know, I want to be there. I want that to be my default position, trust. But that's not my default position, right? My default position is probably panic, right? More than anything. But in order to get to that trust spot, you've got to do the work, as you say, Mike. You've got to be working at it. You've got to be experimenting on it. You've got to be having those conversations, right? And then you get to the point where, like, oh yeah, the rock will glow or whatever, right? You know what I mean? Like that. Oh, okay, there it is. Now I know I've witnessed what trusting looks like, and now maybe I'm one step closer to that being my default position. You know, I mean, I want it to be, but you know, if I'm honest, it's not every time, right? Sometimes it's like the sky is falling, I'll run around like you know, my head's on fire, you know, before I.
Yeah, and then at that time when you get on your knees, the Lord kind of rebukes you and says, "Hey, Tyler, we've been here, we've done this."
It's DNC 6, right? It's every time you've asked, I've answered. What's going on, dude? Like, listen up, right?
Here for you. Yeah, here for you.
That's right. Yeah. No. So anyway, I love that. I love that. I think it's you know, I think being committed to the process is the important thing, right?
And don't let the result of that make you think that the process is bad.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a big thing.
Talk about that a little more, Brian. I love that idea.
Well, I think too often, you know, when we say, you know, I prayed and I didn't feel anything, so therefore, like, you know, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I think too often we are so results driven that we go, oh, this didn't bring what I thought it would, so I'm not gonna mess with it anymore. But too much of the time, it's we're getting the muscle memory, we're getting we're getting used to how things work, how we get to a place. And so if we don't give it enough, or if we base whatever happens as whether this process is good or bad, then we're going to miss on a lot of really good things that take some time, because we are so
it's like we want that instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
Like I asked for this, I stood up off of my knees, and it's not there. Like, what's happening
right here? If I can't see it, taste it, smell it, touch it.
Yeah.
Those things, if there is no physical change, if there's no change in my physical world, then what good is it?
Then obviously this doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and Thomas S. Monson speaking about that, right? Life is full of difficulties, some minor and others of a more serious nature. There seems to be an unending supply of challenges for one and all. Our problem is that we have often expect instantaneous solutions to such challenges, forgetting that frequently the heavenly virtue of patience is required, right? A big fan of David Butler and Emily Freeman on Don't Miss This and the podcast. But he's often says, don't confuse silence from God with absence.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes we think because the heavens are quiet right now, God's not there. And sometimes we don't see results, so we think God's not active in our lives, and it's like the furthest thing from the truth. Well, right? He's got things in the long haul, the long game.
Well, and I think that's why that word remember is so important, right? Because you have to have an inventory, a file of answers. And it could be 2 deep, it could be 25 deep, right? Whatever that is, you've got to be able to look back and say, okay, today I needed this. I didn't get it immediately, but let's take inventory for a second. 6 months ago, I asked for this, and here's what happened. A year ago, this is an experience that I had. Here's what happened, right? If we can't remember, and we can't pull those things up and say, okay, today it's not happening for me, but it has happened for me, then that's a tough spot to be in, right? Because then every time you're building this building from scratch, you've got nothing going. You're like, all right, I'm starting over. No walls, no foundation, nothing. Here we go. But if you can go back and go, you know what? It has happened. I have had answers. I have had experiences. All right, I'm going to remember how those came about, and I'm going to work that process again and see where it comes from.
And I think compared to the world, heaven is a quiet place. I think we know that because the connection that we have with heaven through the Holy Ghost is a still small voice. And so I think so often the heavens are quiet because we are loud. We are busy. We have too much happening to be able to get to the level where we can hear the things of heaven, because we are so preoccupied with the things of this world and the things that are right here, that are tangible, that we can again touch, taste, feel, see, all those things, because it's an in here thing. It's a spiritual being thing. And too often we are physical bodies and then spirits, and not the other way around. Yeah. We're not spiritual beings having a physical experience.
Well, I love that tail end of it's that quote I sent you guys earlier this morning, the tail end of that Charles Bukowski quote. We are terrorized and flattened by trivialities. We are eaten up by nothing.
And yet we seek that. Right, we seek that triviality. Like,
we open the door.
100%. Like that's.
We say, "Hey, come on in, destroy me."
All the time. Like, there's times where I'm like, you know what? I could totally buckle down right here and kind of get into some good meaty stuff for myself. But you know what? I'm just going to flip on that tube and just chill right here.
Or you know what? We get on.
I'm going to watch ESPN Sports Center for the 3rd time in a row. Dude.
Yeah. Or we get on our knees, right? We get on our knees and we're like, Heavenly Father, you know, like today I struggled with X, Y, and Z. And if he wasn't loving, he would say basically, well, you let X, Y, and Z in.
Yeah. Well,
the thing that is tripping you up, it's like you're setting the table for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And he is telling you that, right?
It's the programming.
Right. Yeah.
We've set up the system. And we haven't put the right code in to knock that stuff out there just yet.
But
I love the idea of getting quiet.
Yeah, because Mike, I was just going to say, I think we live in a world where we're scared of quiet.
We
right?
are.
That
I totally am, and that's why you guys come on my walks with me every day.
But isn't that the truth though? It's like there's times where I'm sitting in a space where I can have my own inventory, my own personal session, and I'll pull out the phone and I'll open up the ESPN app, or I'll look at what the surf report looks like, or I'm like, why am I creating noise when I have the opportunities to?
And how many times does that thing buzz a day?
Oh,
you go look and you go look in the notifications, and we just have it. We have those small little dopamine drips from coming for us every day, and we're training ourselves. Yeah. And half the time we're not even realizing it.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It's scary.
It is.
That's what it is.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Yeah. Blaise Pascal. So you think about the world, not only internal world, but think about some of the things that are externally happening. And it goes to what Tyler just said. Blaise Pascal says all the trouble in the world is due to the fact that man cannot sit still in a room. Right? True, that a man can't be okay in his or her own company.
Yeah.
And that was I think that was a Doug McMullen thing that he talked about, where he talked about towards the end of it, being able to be comfortable in your own mind.
Yeah.
And to be comfortable with who you are in there.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the times, we medicate with all sorts of different things, and that can be drugs, alcohol, that can be distraction, things of little to no worth, that can be television, that can be fill in the blank, whatever it is for you.
Yeah.
And until we have those moments of self-awareness where and make changes to the programming, that stuff's gonna continue to come for us.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, I've tried recently, like when I'm waiting, for someone or something, my go-to is pull out the phone and start scrolling through stuff, right? I'm attempting to like not pick it up and just sit there. Because I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, man, before phones, like, what did we do when we had to just wait for someone? We just sat there and waited.
That
I
is
gotta
such
be reading something, man.
That is such an old-fashioned notion, right?
I know, man. So I've been trying to just sit there and not look at anything. Just I'm that weird guy in the room that people walk by like, what's this guy's problem? He's actually looking at people, man.
Well, it's funny that you say weird guy, because that would be peculiar, right? And we're supposed to be that peculiar people. Hey, Brian, so last time we got on, we talked, I think we ended with this idea behind ideas and actions. And I think you commended us for jumping into the podcast, which was an idea. And we started with some things. It sounds like you've been doing some things. Can we get into a little bit of some of the work you've been doing since the last time we connected?
Yeah. So I have a couple of different little podcast projects that we've started to plant some seeds on. One was at Christmas time. I was thinking about what I wanted to get my daughter for Christmas. And for a long time, Becky and I have talked about, we want to focus more on experiences than things, especially with our gift giving, birthdays, Christmas, all that kind of stuff. So, I had this idea. And so I was like, I would do podcasts like this one, or fantasy football podcasts and things like that. And Gwen would see me getting ready for it, setting stuff up. She'd be like, Dad, when are we going to do a show together? And I was all awesome. Like, oh, that's cool. That's kind of fun. And so sometimes she'd come in the picture when I'm on a podcast or whatever, and, say hi to the guys and stuff like that. but obviously she's not going to want to talk about football or anything like that. So I went to just some common ground that we have, and that's this great cartoon called Bluey. That is just, I don't know. I feel bad for you guys that you don't have young kids.
Well, I've actually seen Bluey and I've listened to the podcast. So I'm throwing that out there.
It is an amazing show. I am blown away by how these 7-minute little episodes can pack in nostalgia, can pack in life lessons, can pack in reality. And so I thought, this might be a cool little thing where we do a little podcast. And Gwen and I just talk about Bluey. And so we started this last year. It's been a lot of fun just sitting down. We sat down and we came up with names for it and went back and forth with that. We came up with how long do we want it to be? Where are we going to post it? What topics do we want to talk about? How do we want to format this? So it's called Backyard Bluey. If you want to go and listen, they're just cute little fun episodes where Gwen and I just sit down and we take a topic and we discuss all sorts of different things about Bluey.
I think it's worth a listen just to hear the back and forth from the dad and his daughter. I mean,
it's
honestly,
fun.
It's super cool. It's super fun.
And
super cool.
I need to remind myself that this needs to be fun and not become a little job for her or responsibility and things like that. And you're not pulling your weight or all that kind of stuff. And let her be a kid and let us just have fun with it. Because sometimes I get a little more serious about it. The other one I started, my best friend since we were 10 years old, we grew up in Southern California together. His grandma lives up here in the area. She lived in Redding for a long time. So I heard about Redding since I was 10 years old and how it is this magical place that he would come up and go on a houseboat for a couple weeks during the summer every year. And so I moved here. I met a girl that lived here, married her, moved here. And so did he. He moved up here. And so he started a little podcast called Foxes Have Holes. And he asked me after the first couple of episodes to come on as a co-host. And so that's another little podcast that we've started. And we talk about a lot of spiritual topics and then applying them to things that are happening in the world and things like that. And, sometimes we don't agree on certain things. And it's a really interesting thing. There was actually, before we recorded our last episode, we started on a topic and it's a pretty feisty topic in the world today. And we kind of were on opposite ends of this topic, and both kind of were going back and forth about, no, how can you think this or that? And it was a really interesting conversation because at one point I was like, man, I don't think we're going to be able to record tonight. I don't think we're in a good enough spot to be able to get on and kind of muscle through and talk about, this topic that we had set up. But, it was really interesting throughout that. He was like, I really appreciate that you do that because people don't want to discuss in a debate type way with me. He's like, nobody does it. And so I'm glad that I can do it with somebody that I know I love and care about. Yeah. And, even though we have differing opinions, differing views, that we can present them in a way that part of it, the love that we have for each other, is still at the forefront.
Yeah. So Brian, where can we find your podcast at?
Yeah, you can find both of them, anywhere where you like to get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We use Anchor. Anchor is a great little podcast app. So you can find it Anchor FM as well.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll
Spotify. Spotify as well. You can
Backyard Bluey and Foxes Have Holes.
Yeah.
Foxes Have Holes, referring to the quote from the Savior.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I want to tune into that, man. I haven't heard that one, so I'm gonna have to give it a listen.
And I have another one that's kind of simmering in the background a little bit that I have things percolating. I think this is really fun, and what I really love about it, I want to take you just back to when I was a kid. I was a little bit of a different kid in the respect that on a Boy Scout outing, I would rather be sitting with the adults at the campfire than playing capture the flag with the other scouts. Yeah. Just because I loved sitting there and taking in the perspective of other people and kind of what they thought was important to discuss and talk about. And, especially around a campfire, I don't know what it is about sitting around a campfire, but everything seems like bigger and more like awe-inspiring. And, you can kind of, I don't know, there's some magical thing about sitting around a campfire and talking about different things. But I feel like podcasts do that same kind of thing for me. And so I love being in the world where I can sit with somebody that, I've never met physically or who I've met very little, and feel like I can get into their soul a little bit, and understand where they're coming from. And so, I'm addicted to podcasts.
That's awesome, man.
All right. Can we get, we got Brian Grow here. We got some football things happening. Can we take just a minute or two? I know this is going to be hard to
go. Yeah. I just want to know where Baker Mayfield's going to be, man.
Oh man.
Where's this guy? I feel like,
hold on. How did the Raiders come out winners and you score? And does Aaron Rodgers know this when he signs?
No.
He had to have known, because that was his whole beef, right? He wanted in on the personnel decisions. Like, he's got to know he's losing Devontae Adams, and like,
there's no way he didn't. There's no way with their relationship he had to have known. And it's all about the Benjamins, baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Raiders have had a fairly active.
Well, I'm really glad it's working out for you, but as a Seahawks fan, we're left holding the bag of poop, right?
Yeah.
But here's why you can't get too excited, because there's an arms race in the AFC West.
Oh yeah, the AFC. Even given everything that we've signed, we're behind everybody. That's the problem. So,
and can the NFC get a quarterback? It's Aaron, and then who?
It's Aaron, Brady. Stafford,
Brady.
who just.
Can we stop with Brady? I mean, come on,
dude. He farved faster than we. That is the record.
I think that was broken.
Quickest somebody has farved.
I think that was broken anyways with the whole announcement, right? And
sure,
it leaking out that he was, and then he's like, "What is he talking about?"
Publicity stunt. It's like, do we care about this guy anymore? Hey, I'm retiring. Oh, good job. Oh, I'm back. All right. What?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, you come back and you go, oh, who's going to be in this division with me? Carolina has Sam Darnold, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. Sure, I'll come back. That sounds like cake. I'll have my cake and eat it too.
Yeah. Seriously. What about Baker? Where's he going?
I think
Seattle.
Mike, what do you feel about that? Because I think Carolina has shut the door and said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And the only other realistic spot is up in the Northwest.
Yeah, honestly, I
think they want to rebuild. They want to.
Yeah, I think Pete Carroll has got some guy. He's 70 something, right? He's like 70. He is in no position to rebuild, but I think they're rebuilding.
Yeah.
And I think that they're tanking. I think that or if not, they're looking for a game manager, because Pete Carroll believes that he can do it running, and he can't because they don't have the offensive line, right? And we finally we just sold one of the probably top 10 guys to ever do it. And you can't turn some of those draft picks that we got into a Baker Mayfield. Right? I'll take a Minshew.
You'll take a Minshew over a Mayfield?
Yeah.
No. So when the Colts were, everybody was toying with the idea after the Browns got Deshaun Watson, everybody was toying with the idea, the Colts still need a quarterback. Maybe Baker's a fit there. I was doing the same thing. I was like, I'll take Mariota.
Oh, 100%.
On a 1-2 year deal. I'll take anybody else. And luckily they were able to pull the trigger and get Matt Ryan for.
But I'm hearing, I don't know if you guys saw the Twitter exchange between Kansas City Chiefs and DK, but there's talk of liquidating Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf when the Kansas City Chiefs text or they tweet DK Metcalf and say, doors open for you here in Kansas City. And DK Metcalf says, y'all better close it. I heard it gets cold out there. Right? Like people are straight up coming after him. Aaron Rodgers said DK Metcalf would be a good guy to call.
Yeah, I think Seattle is in.
I'm getting flashbacks to four. I'm getting flashbacks to
about to happen, my friend.
I'm getting flashbacks to growing up a Seahawks fan, man.
Sure.
Hey, you had a good run, man. You had a really good run.
Tavares Jackson.
You had a good run, dude. Let's be happy for a minute.
Yeah, I'm happy, but I'm having a hard time following Dangerous Wilson because I can't. The Broncos stuff, I can't.
I just kind of feel like the whole Baker Mayfield thing, a mystery to me. He's a serviceable quarterback. Like, he's not the worst guy in the league. I don't know what he's like in a locker room. Whatever that looks like.
I think that's a big part of.
But if you're pulling the trigger on Deshaun over Baker, man, that says something went sideways pretty hard up in Cleveland, man.
And it says you don't have any problem with the fact that he's got 22 counts of sexual assault.
Now, I read 2 grand juries. Did they?
Criminal charges are dropped.
Yeah. So
those women see that the guy that they've got charges against scores a $230 million guaranteed contract.
I know it's wrong, man, in so many ways.
And Calvin Ridley is out for the year because
he bet on a game.
He bet on a couple games.
We're so backwards.
We are backwards.
Backwards, man.
Yeah.
No, it'll get really backwards when the NFL comes out with gender equity campaigns, right? When cute little girls are playing flag football and they're promoting themselves as a charitable organization that
and
is
a
developing
champion of female. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, getting back to holding two things, I've often had to, try to parse just with my own fandom of football, because it is a highly violent sport. They are not moral leaders as far as, when you have that type of celebrity and the impact that you can make. Their morality is generally not highest on many people's list in that. Right. And so, sometimes as a fan, you go, okay, how much do I let this in? We were texting and Mike, I after Russell and they cut Bobby Wagner, the Seahawks did. I texted him wrong. How you doing? Did him wrong. Found out on social media.
Did him wrong.
That's dirty, dude.
Yeah. And you said, why do I care so much? And we invest a lot of time and energy and that hope that comes with sports and fandom and things like that. And it's something I have to wrestle with all the time about.
We are eaten up by nothing.
Do I just put this away? Do I got to put this away?
But hey, I do think that there's, we can't be all business all the time, right? So,
well, yeah, I just watched Remember the Titans and I feel good again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So what's the next big piece to fall in the NFL?
There's some smoke. And so if we stay on the quarterback thing, there's some smoke about Kyler Murray and his future in Arizona.
Well, he turned off communication with the Arizona offices, right? So
so I that could be an out of nowhere one. Seattle's still got some big wide receivers that could be on the move at some point.
I totally see. It would be such an Arizona. See, I like rooting for Arizona, man. I feel like they need it. They deserve it, but it'll be such an Arizona move to let Kyler go and bring in Baker. Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's going to be Baker, dude.
This is what I've said about this version of the Cardinals, that they are like the early 2000 Phoenix Suns, where they're just running and gunning, and D'Antoni's there, and Steve Nash and Raja Bell and Amari Stoudemire, all those guys. And they have these crazy records during the regular season, and then out in the first or second round of the playoffs.
And then Big Shot Bob breaks Steve Nash's nose, and then boom, it's all over.
How many rings that guy got?
Like 8? Does he have 8?
I thought it was like
I think you're right.
Big number. He was with Houston. He was the Lakers. He was with the Spurs.
Yeah, you're right.
I think he cleaned up.
Oh yeah, big shot, Bob, man.
We got to be loving the fact that LeBron is losing, right? What is it about that it just makes me so happy?
You're talking to a Lakers fan, so it comes to the detriment of my fandom.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And it's been a really interesting thing because, I mean, I think LeBron's good, but I'm always team over player, at least in basketball. Football, I'm with the fantasy aspect of things, but I don't know.
You know what? I got to be honest. I am, given everything that's going on with the Lakers, I am a Russell Westbrook guy, dude. And it kills me. It kills me because I'm like, he's not this bad, but dude, he's so bad right now. Yeah. It's hard. Like it's hard. And he's just kind of this is his persona that he puts out there. It's just hard to kind of watch, but I was a Russell guy.
I still love
UCLA, and I
love the press conferences, though.
I know.
Yeah,
I love the press conferences.
Always good for a soundbite.
I feel bad for the guy, even though he's making $1 bazillion. And
I don't know who got it wrong. Like getting the oldest team in NBA history. Why that wouldn't work?
But somebody should have talked to Karl Malone when the Lakers. We tried that. I've seen this movie.
I think we burned that bridge.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right, and I know you're not a baseball guy, but we'll just say go Dodgers for the record, right?
Sure.
Is that what we're gonna do? All right.
Sure.
Good.
I mean, I went to more Angels games when I was growing up in Southern California than Dodger games, but
I did too, Brian, because the Angels games were cheaper because they never won, right? So you could go for a song.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then Angels in the Outfield was a big part of my childhood. So
what was?
Angels in the Outfield.
Oh yeah, man.
So.
I mean, Freddie Freeman. Oh, come on, right? The rich get richer. Like seriously.
Oh, that wasn't you. That wasn't.
That's a Dodger. Yeah, Dodgers.
It wasn't Mike Freeman.
Oh, darn
no.
it.
I think Mike Freeman is in the league somewhere, though.
You could have told me, and I would have believed you. Because that's how out of touch with baseball.
Well, I saw a graphic the other day, and it was showing the disparity of spending in the MLB. And the Dodgers, I can't remember. It was like $260, million or something. Yeah. And what was the lowest was like 30 million, right? I mean, there's no way those things are even going to get in the same.
How has that never been corrected? Like,
it's wild. I mean, that's the thing about the NFL, right? I mean, love it or hate it. There's parity, and
that's why we love March Madness so much, right?
That's why we love March Madness.
Because the Peacocks can get to the Elite Eight.
We're all in on the Peacocks, man.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
You buying that National Peacock Day, though?
I've seen some pretty funny videos about peacock mascots over the past week or so.
Oh my
They're
God.
amazing.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
You love a good storyline, and they're bringing it.
Let's circle back though on that question. Do you find yourself doing things that you never thought you would be doing? For whatever reason, the brackets, when I was a kid, it was drop everything, quit school.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. And now it's like, oh yeah, why am I working right now? I should be watching basketball. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. High school, like every between periods, you'd rush to your next class because sure your teacher had the game on in their classroom until class started. So you just gun it. You can't talk to anybody in the halls. We got to get there and watch.
Yeah.
I did order up a Domino's deal, and Abe and I hung out on a Friday afternoon and watched some basketball.
That's good stuff, man.
I haven't watched as much as I would like to, but I love that stuff.
Yeah, it's good. It's a fun time of year with March Madness, spring baseball. You got the free agency in the NFL. There's some stuff.
You got Masters in 2 weeks.
And the Masters in 2 weeks. And basketball, this is the best time of year for the NBA as well. So yeah, it's good stuff right now.
Yeah, and here's things that have changed in my lifetime. I would rather watch the NFL draft than the Super Bowl a lot of the time, because I'm so into these college prospects that I've been following and tracking. I play in these leagues where we play both a college fantasy football league and an NFL fantasy football league.
Wow.
And then your college players just move up as they're drafted into the NFL to your NFL team. And so like, I love the storylines and stuff behind that. And so like the end of April is a holiday in my house, and my wife knows that Thursday night, nothing's getting done. Don't schedule anything. Like Brian is going to buy a big fat pizza, wings, and he is going to be watching the draft wearing somebody's jersey.
And are you eating those, just on a side note, are you eating those wings with a fork or with your hands? Come on.
Come on.
Bone or boneless?
I do not hate on either. So give me all the wings.
Well, I am struggling with
all the sauces.
Yeah, I like the boneless because the boneless it becomes like krill, right? You can just eat a million of them, and it's like not a bit. But I do want to be. I feel like I'm getting typecast as a boneless wing guy, and I want to fight that. So
yeah, don't let anybody box you in.
Do I know who I am, right? And like I would love to reinvent myself as some brave, gritty guy that just digs hot wings with bones and not like this boneless thing. So I got to figure this out, Tyler. I got to figure this out. I got to come up with some kind of hobby or something that's going to put me in a place where I'm going to be able to be perceived by other people as like, hey, don't mess with that guy because he gets his wings with the bone in them, not boneless.
I feel like the hobby for you that would lend itself to this is cornhole somehow. I feel like cornhole and wings with bones go hand in hand, man.
I could do some of that. I was thinking like chainsaw.
Well, yeah.
You know, if you get a chainsaw, like people respect dudes with chainsaws.
Okay, look, I know,
not like a plug-in chainsaw, but like a steel chainsaw with the orange safety caps,
pumping out fumes right in your face as you're
and something about like 24-inch or something, like just some with a bar on it with the safety bar, you know.
All right, so Brian,
that's it.
Before we end this madness, speaking of March Madness, I've got to ask you the question because Mike's conversation about chainsaws brings this to mind. What is one thing every man should know how to do in your opinion?
That's a good question.
And we've had some interesting answers over the last.
Yeah, we've had some good answers and some not so good answers.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say riding a horse isn't one of our better ones.
Not my best work.
Well, did that come from you, Mike?
Yeah, it might have.
Might have. Allegedly. I think every man.
He put me on the spot.
Yeah, no, yeah, I feel that a little bit right now. I'm waffling between two answers. Okay. I think every man should be able to, and this is the journey I've been on. I think we should all be able to grow food. I
like that answer.
I think there's something, and my last name is Grow, so I think it's very fitting. But I want to be a farmer. Like there's some part of me that just wants to go find a plot of land, start an orchard, like till, grow, eat, can, all those kinds of things. I think there's that idea of self-sufficiency.
I love that.
I think every man should know how to
law of the harvest, right?
Food.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I think there's so much
dirt and something out of nothing.
Dirt under your nails, and you know the work you put in versus what you get out. I think that whole idea since I started has really been so this channel that I've gotten, it's called Self-Sufficient Me, and it's this Australian dude, like a guy in his 40s, 50s, who was in the army. His wife and he had this conversation. One of us has to stay home, and he's like, "I'll stay home. I want to figure out how to help with finances and things like that. I'll start a garden and start growing stuff." And it started small, and now he has 4 acres and he grows everything. He has like every fruit you can imagine, every vegetable you can imagine in his garden. And he goes through all these things and teaches you what can go together and how to fill your raised beds for not trying to spend an arm and a leg to fill up your raised beds and all this stuff. And and he goes on this, he just has taught me that having that self-sufficiency is just so important. Just being he says you don't have to be self-sufficient in everything, but be self-sufficient in something. And that was his something. And so I kind of joined
love
him.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
The other answer that I was thinking of, I think every man needs to know how to communicate. Be able to, both in the reception of ideas, processing them, and then expressing ideas. I think every man should be able to communicate openly and clearly. And that's the thing I want for myself. If I could max out one of my attributes just to 100, it would be the ability to communicate in both those ways, in reception and in output.
I love that answer. I love both those answers. Yeah.
So, hey, Brian, since you've last joined us, we've added a question, and I want to throw this out to you. Can you share with us, putting you on the spot, no pre-show document this time around, right? We're just hitting you. Yeah. By the way, my mouth's kind of watering just thinking about the last time we got together. Chick-fil-A had just opened.
Yes, sir.
Right?
We went today too.
Yeah. Think about that. Okay.
That was my lunch.
Can you share with us a memory of a moment in your life? Paint us a picture of a moment in your life when you felt truly rich.
Yeah. I don't know if I talked about this last time or if it was on another podcast, but when we were in school, it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening, kind of that dusk time. We had our oldest daughter. She was just kind of walking age. We're just outside. We're up in Idaho, going to BYU, Idaho. We're in Rexburg, just outside of our apartment. Becky and I were just walking around our little apartment complex. There's a nice little grass field next to it. The sun's setting. The work day is over. The school day is over. And we just get to enjoy watching her learning to walk, and how that new ability let her discover so much that she gets to just walk through this field and stop and look at flowers that are there and bugs, and and then keeps walking and tumbles and falls. And there was just this moment of like, I would just describe it as a big sigh. You're just kind of, everything is right now. I don't have to, there's no responsibilities weighing on my mind. There's no deadlines that are in my view right now. There's literally just the things that are most important in my life right now.
I feel it. I feel that, right? And I love that question now. It's quickly becoming one of my favorites because it's not about any of that worldly noise, right? All of those things melt away. All of those things strip away. And I honestly think on my way out, right, if I'm laying on a deathbed somewhere and I'm just trying to come to peace, I think those are the things that are going to help. Right? Those moments are the things that are going to be kind of burned into the memory. Tyler, we're always talking about remembering. I think those moments, we're going to see a series of those moments. I'm going to see a series of sacrament meeting, right? I'm going to see ordinances. I'm going to see covenants that I made that kind of form those rungs that are going to help me go home. And I think that if we can live our day to day with some of those memories at the forefront of our brains that we might be able to pull up, I think it's going to be hard to get lost. It's going to be hard to get, go astray when we've got it, like that painted.
I heard a lot of people use the phrase, and Mike, I think I've heard you talk about this on the podcast and in some other settings, where you talk about like watching your wife and your kids driving away, and you say, my whole world's in that car. And a lot of us, think about that. My whole world is this collection of 4 people in my life right now. That's everything. And how can we not be satisfied that we have that world, like that whole world? We forget too much of the time that, you know, there's other things that the world tells us we should want, but we have the whole world right there. And when we use that phrasing, my whole world is in that car, my whole world is right here within these walls. Yeah, it gets us back to that perspective that why do I need anything else?
Yeah.
Well, think about it. Think if the three of us right now, at the end of our day, were to just kneel down, give thanks, and say, "I have enough," right? Like, think about the balm of Gilead that would give to your soul, right? Like, I have enough. I have no need for anything more than what I've been given right here, right now. I can be alone in a room with my thoughts in my own company, and I have enough, right? I think that could be the recipe for a lot of peace, both internally and externally. So, Brian Grow, I dig it, man. I dig hanging out with you.
Yeah, you're a rich man, Brian. I you know, I love the answer of communication. So here's the challenge for you, man. Go back and communicate that memory that you just shared with Mike and I to your daughter and your wife, because that's a special thing. I appreciate you, man. I've learned something today, as always, and we're gonna, you know, you come on here once, you come on here twice, third time's just around the corner, man.
Sweet. Oh, I love it. Anytime you need, I am a phone call away.
Hey, has your definition to what it means to be considered the richest man in town, has it changed over the last year?
That's a good question. You know, honestly, I really think that definition can't be defined by anybody but you. And I think your richness and my richness is going to look a little different. And I have to discover that. And that's part of that process. Is amazing. And I think sometimes we don't get the result immediately of what we want. And so we get sidetracked. But I really think just that definition of what a rich man is continually changing, continually growing. And I think I've seen that in the last year for myself, that I've grown, I've changed, and I'm going to continue to do so. And instead of resisting it, instead of complaining about it, to embrace it and to do whatever I can to influence it to the change that I want, and not the change that is just inevitably going to happen.
Yeah, I think that with that intentionality, I dream of my daughter coming home from Philadelphia and her looking at me and saying, "Dad, you've changed."
Yeah.
And I think that idea of change, right? I mean, we start out with this fog of happiness. I think, you know, I think that things become clear, right? That those are the first words that come to mind is we're happy, and we can recognize those pieces. For me, the process of growth is the ability to be satisfied with where I'm at, right? And to recognize the richness of right now. And not of, hey, in a year I'll be where I want to be, but right now this is the richest I've ever been, and I recognize that in you, Brian, and I love it, man.
Right, hold them both. Right now, I'm satisfied. I'm really excited about where I'm going.
We're progressing, but we're moving.
Yeah,
love it, man. You're the best, Brian.
You guys are great. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.